You are listening to the Nightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Coming up, Frank Murtaugh of the Memphis Flyer and Memphis Magazine will join us. We'll talk about this week's East Carolina-Memphis game, as well as the opening of the college basketball season for the Tigers. Frank is standing by and will join us in just a few moments. But first, we check in to see how the playoff committee is going to screw Cincinnati in the college football playoff poll this week. And ironically, they got up a spot from number 6 to number 5 in the latest poll, still sitting outside the top 4 with their undefeated record. But I think the ultimate part of where they get hosed is that Houston has not cracked the top 25 in the CFP poll. Despite the fact they are undefeated in conference, just a single loss on the season. They have many 3-loss teams ahead of them. So they're not giving Cincinnati that potential marquee matchup just yet for the potential AAC championship game. So that's where that stands right now. Meanwhile, the Bearcats, number 2 in the AP poll. They had 2 goal line stands at the end of the game to hold off Tulsa, 28-20. In their quest for the CFP. Cincinnati, one of 4 unbeaten teams nationally, along with UTSA, Georgia, and Oklahoma. And again, as we mentioned, still in line for another AAC title game appearance. Right now, number 19, Houston, remains unbeaten in conference play at 6-0 as they rally to beat South Florida 54-42. Brian Battie had 2 100-yard kickoff returns for touchdowns for the Bulls. Houston would reach the championship game with a win in either of its next 2 games, Saturday at Temple or on November 19th against Memphis. Speaking of the Tigers, they held off a late rally and upsetting number 23 SMU 28-25. Quarterback Seth Hennigan returned from injury to pass for 392 yards and 2 touchdowns. UCF won its 3rd straight game to sit 2 games behind Houston in the standings as the Knights won a 14-10 decision against Tulane. Mikey Keene threw for 229 and 2 touchdowns, including the go-ahead 23-yard touchdown pass to Brandon Johnson with just under 6 minutes remaining. East Carolina romped over Temple 45-3 as the Pirates get to 5-4 on the season, and they stand 1 win away from bowl eligibility. They celebrated that homecoming victory against Temple at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium. Holt Nailers in 4 touchdowns. He figured 4, 3 passing, 1 rushing, while running back Keaton Mitchell had another highlight reel kind of day, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns on 18 carries, including a 57-yard TD for a score. And last week's Spotlight Game of the Week did not have much light in it at all for Navy, as they were easily defeated by number 8 Notre Dame 34-6. Looking to this weekend schedule, Friday night, Cincinnati at South Florida. That's 6 p.m. on ESPN2. The Bearcats lead the all-time series 11-7, and they were victorious last season 28-7. The Saturday slate looks like this: UCF at SMU noon on ESPNU. The Knights lead the all-time series 8-1, and their last meeting was back in 2018. The Knights won by 28 points. Houston at Temple noon on ESPN+. The Cougs lead the all-time series 6-1. They last played in 2018 as well, but Temple won that affair. Tulsa at Tulane, 4 o'clock on ESPNU. Tulsa leads the all-time series 12-5, and they won last year's game by a 30-24 score. Up next, we'll talk East Carolina and Memphis with Frank Murtaugh of the Memphis Flyer and Memphis Magazine. Also touch a little bit on Tigers basketball as the college basketball season is getting underway. Frank is up next when the AAC report continues.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Nightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
All right, time now to welcome our guest, Frank Murtaugh from the Memphis Flyer and Memphis Magazine. We're going to talk about this week's matchup with East Carolina and also touching a little bit on the basketball season as that is now underway as we roll into the month of November. Frank, thanks again for being here.
Great to be with you, Jeff. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing well. So let's get football first. So the Tigers 5-4 overall. They are 2-3 in conference right now. It's been kind of an up and down season for the Tigers. They, certainly had started off with a win at beating Nicholls State, beat Arkansas State, then down Mississippi State. And then ran into a little bit of trouble with UTSA. Certainly no shame in losing to them. The Temple loss probably now looks like a head-scratcher seeing how they're playing these days. And, of course, they lost to Tulsa before bouncing back to beat Navy. Lost to UCF without their quarterback. And then got the big upset win over SMU this past week. Give me your assessment of this roller coaster of a season.
Well, man, yeah, it's a peak and valley season, Jeff. I hate to use the cliche, but that's what's happened, as you just described. The win over Mississippi State, the Tigers set 3-0, and folks around here are thinking, we're on the cusp of another top 25 appearance, which has become fairly regular in recent years. And then, they blew a tire against UTSA, which, with some perspective now, doesn't look like such a bad loss, but. The narrow losses to Temple and then Tulsa. It's the win over SMU. Let me just say this: it was as much needed as it was unexpected. The Tigers had gone 7 calendar weeks, Jeff, with only one victory, and and a football season is relatively brief anyway. But to go 7 weeks without anything to celebrate, things were kind of sagging in these parts. So to take the field against a top 25 team in the Mustangs and one of the top offenses in the country and pull off that win. It was a big deal. The Tigers, there was no margin for error in that game, Jeff, and I think they knew it. I think Ryan Silverfield emphasized it. The defense played better than they have than that unit has in the 2 years Silverfield's been on the sideline as head coach. 5 sacks, 5 different players. They really brought it. And then, they capitalized. They forced a turnover on SMU's first possession in the red zone, and then Rodney Owens picked off the final pass that the SMU quarterback Mordecai threw to clinch the game there in the fourth quarter. And, I said no margin for error. You win by 3 points with all those factors in your favor, and I would emphasize 3 fourth-down plays that Memphis had in putting up their 3 second-half touchdowns. Any one of those plays doesn't happen, it goes the other way, and you're talking about a Tiger team that's 4-5 right now, instead of 5-4. Obviously, a much more attractive record, and we got what looks like a big game here on Saturday with East Carolina coming to town. Yeah,
getting back to the SMU game for a second, they held them to a season low 323 yards. That almost feels like half their average. Shutting out a team that's that prolific on offense was certainly a great defensive performance.
Yeah, it really was. And as I said, they just, if you're grading a defense, that Tiger defense on Saturday had an A+. What you want to do, the swing factors for any football defense are negative plays, tackles behind the line of scrimmage. Ideally, sacks of the quarterback. The ball is literally not moving it's moving backwards. So you shorten the field, you reduce those statistics you're talking about, total offense, and then there are the turnovers. So the Tigers, those two factors, they were able to swing in their favor in a big way. And again, how crucial those two turnovers are. The opening drive, SMU goes up 7-0 early. We may have a different ball game. And then, SMU is driving for what could have been a game-winning touchdown, and Owens jumped in front of that pass. So, now and then a defensive unit just puts up that A+ marker, and the Tigers did it at precisely the right time and at a point in their season that it was desperately needed. And I think you got an entirely different culture in that locker room heading into Saturday's game against East Carolina.
Yeah, and I guess you also found out how important your quarterback Seth Hennigan is. We missed the UCF game,
Wow.
and they were just basically stopped in their tracks. So yeah,
Right.
seeing him bounce back really does. If you wanted to put a report card out on him, it's like, oh boy, we can't live without him.
Well, absolutely. Well, he's such a precocious talent. He's a true freshman, Jeff. We've talked about this before. He was this time last year. He was playing in the high school playoffs in Texas. He's a talented kid. He's got it right between the ears. And he's been more valuable in that, but particularly Saturday, it was a one-dimensional attack. The Tigers did not establish any kind of running game. Brandon Thomas, their top tailback, is nursing an injury that he suffered at UCF, actually. And so they were similar to SMU in that area. SMU didn't have a running game either, or the Tigers wouldn't have been able to pin their ears back and attack the quarterback the way they did. But Seth Hennigan is a talent. He's it's a lot to look forward to in these parts if he sticks around another 2-3 years. But for the time being, most importantly, you've got a kid who's barely 19 years old who looks like he's been doing this a while, plays like a veteran.
And of course, you mentioned East Carolina, the opponent this coming weekend on your home turf, and a Pirate team that has made some progress this year. This is the third year under Mike Houston, and that third year is when you want to see the transition towards the upward momentum when you're rebuilding a program, and it looks like they are making that step.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. Back in August, we talked about this. I would not have circled November 13th as a big game on the Tigers' schedule, but here we are, and things change over the course of a couple of months. And you got the Pirates are 5-4 also, and the thing that jumps out at me, at least, is that dominating when they had over Temple just last weekend, 45-3. That's an Owl team that beat Memphis. As you mentioned earlier in our conversation. So. It's odd. There's not much of a feel to the game because these two programs have only played twice since the American Athletic Conference was formed in 2013. They were in separate divisions, when the league had two divisions. So, it doesn't feel like a rivalry game, but it just feels like an important game. You got Keaton Mitchell, the Pirates tailback, is leading the AAC in rushing, and for Memphis, Calvin Austin is leading the league in receiving yardage. So you got a couple of offensive stars that are your headliners you can spotlight. And it makes for a good, mid-November matchup. Yeah,
and as you mentioned, because SMU was not able to put a running game up there, East Carolina has the ability to do that, and Holt Naylors is certainly a better-than-average quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a two-pronged offense, and I would not expect for Mike McIntyre, the Tigers' defensive coordinator, to be going in with the same scheme he had against SMU, by any stretch. If you sell out for the quarterback against the Pirates, Mr. Mitchell's going to find some gaps, and turn that around and open up the passing game. It could be ugly too. So it's a serious test for Memphis. There's no doubt. They've played very well in the Liberty Bowl. Most people know that over the last 4 or 5 years. The only loss being that upset against UTSA earlier this year. But yeah, it's sort of a heavyweight tilt, just with a couple of 5-4 teams instead of what we'd all like to see, 2-7-2, 8-1 teams. But this is what we have. I think it's two teams that are looking at a season that for Memphis, the balance of their season is Houston and Tulane. That looks like more than likely a loss in Texas. More likely winning against Tulane. Do you want to finish 6-6 or 7-5? This is the swing game, And, Coach Silverfield's not going to be talking that way, and the players aren't. It's always only the next game. We hear that over and over again. But if you're looking at the balance of the season, this game is the swing for the Tigers, and pretty much the same thing for the Pirates.
Yeah, and of course, Memphis is certainly, we've gotten used to them being in the mix for the AAC championship. How's the fan base feeling? Is it a huge disappointment, a slight disappointment? Where would you put that?
I think the expectations are higher now. As far as turnout goes, I'll give you some contrast. 2 years ago, SMU came to town, and it was college game day night. You'll remember. Just Beale Street was packed. It was about the same time of year, early November. 58,000 people packed the Liberty Bowl that night for a nationally televised game. Just an incredible game. Both teams scored 50 points. Memphis prevailed against the same opponent, a top 25 opponent. Last week, there were just over 30,000 fans in the Liberty Bowl. And it was a beautiful day. Game kickoff was 11 a.m. It's not a primetime affair. Didn't have ESPN here. And the stadium was a little more than half full. So Memphis is still a volatile football market. It's not. This is a basketball town first. You get that out before there's any debate. But there would have been more fans at that football game if Memphis only had 1 or 2 losses. Going in 4-4, you see some empty space. But beat East Carolina, maybe pull off an upset against Houston, get things rolling again. They're Tiger fans. They like their couches more than basketball fans do on game day when things aren't going so well.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, Houston is ahead on the schedule as well. Not that they will look ahead to that game, but this could be interesting because Houston could clinch a spot into the AAC championship with most likely beating Temple this weekend. So they could come in already having their destiny for that settled. That could be a letdown situation for them potentially as as Memphis comes to town. You never know.
Yeah, the Tigers and Cougars, they do have a feel. They've been playing each other for a long time, and I've watched enough games and been surprised enough when it seemed like Tigers had little chance, or when the Cougars were on a downswing, then it went the other way around. So let's hope the November 20th game is going to be, or I guess it's the 19th. Is it
yes.
a Friday night game?
Yes, it's Friday night game.
Friday night game. Let's hope that has some significance to it. At least from the Tiger side of things, and Cougars, they better be ready to play.
Yeah. So give me your take on the college football playoffs. Cincinnati has moved up a spot actually to number 5. I'm still a little stunned by that, but this is an interesting scenario. I think the committee is still going to do everything they can to keep them out. But there's been so much chaos in college football this year, and teams keep losing. You never know, but what is your take on where they stand right now?
Yeah, the Cincinnati thing, I'm as cynical as the next guy. I don't know what the Bearcats could possibly do more to get their foot in that door. If it's going to stay a team playoff, the Blue Bloods that are up there, I'm not sure Alabama's going to. I'm not sure Alabama's the Tide we've seen the last 2 or 3 years. So Cincinnati could still, climb a step on the ladder, so to speak. You got Michigan State behind Michigan right now. I don't understand that either because I saw the result of their football game. It's tough. It's tough to measure. I think Georgia's playing a different game right now than anybody else. Kirby Smart's done it the Saban way and made his defense something that wins games by itself. So I think until someone scares Georgia, it seems to me like everyone's playing for second. But I would love, obviously, as someone who's, in AAC country, I'd love to see the Bearcats somehow get the attention of the right voters, the right equipment, whatever it takes to get into that top 4. Yeah,
the cynic in me still says Alabama will be in the top 4 even if they lose a second time, because that is a possibility when they face Georgia in the SEC championship. But I think they'll, they want the brand name of them and Saban in there, no matter what cost. And, I always just kind of look, okay, to me, it's like turned into a weekly game. What excuse will the CFP make this week against Cincinnati?
Yeah. Well, I hear that, Jeff. And brand name is everything in college football. people do not turn the television on for individual players. If anything, it's for the coach and the brand. And Alabama, as opposed to Cincinnati, in a college semifinal, one of those New Year's Six bowl games. That for a marketing 101. I mean, a freshman student would tell you that there's no contest, but this is sports, and if a team is on the field better than another, reward them. And I just think it's a shame somehow that the Bearcats. Well, maybe the Bearcats and Tide will end up playing. If the Bearcats could sneak in with a loss to Ohio State or Oregon losing somewhere and actually face the Tide, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah,
I think we're a long way from that.
Yeah, and then the other conspiracy theory that I have too was that I found it not to be a coincidence that College Game Day was in Cincinnati after the first poll. I know they were hoping for game day for Cincinnati SMU, and then once SMU lost, that went out of the equation. And so okay, let's go there because they're ranked 6th in the CFP. They're going to be steaming, and we'll get to play both sides against the middle.
No, that's a reasonable view. You mentioned the SMU loss. Just when you think you've got the puzzle pieces in place with college football, something tips the table, and we still have 3 weeks of football to play, so it remains interesting. Whoever came up with this system, the fact that we don't have a larger playoff, the machinations that we all go through, and the scenarios that we want to measure, it keeps it fun.
Yeah. There is that part of the aspect to it now, with the 12 team that they've talked about, and hopefully that will come to fruition at some point. The thing I like about the 12 team plan is that they will actually have conference champions. So that would eliminate some of this nebulous stuff that goes on with the Big Ten and the SEC getting so much play. So that would be interesting to see how that plays out. So hopefully that is on the horizon sooner than later. So let's turn to basketball, because man, I can't believe it. It's already time for the season on the hardwood. Hard to imagine. And Memphis opened up their season last night. So give me your report on the Memphis Tigers basketball squad for 2021.
Yeah. Well, this town is in an uproar, a positive uproar with the Tiger basketball team back on the floor. For a game that finally counted. They played a couple of preseason games, and this freshman class Penny Hardaway has brought is astounding. Largely, for two people, Amani Bates and Jalen Duran. Jeff, they both looked outstanding last night. Both played 30 minutes. Bates was draining threes. Duran was dunking, it seemed, every 4 or 5 minutes. The one dunk he missed, he confessed after the game to trying to jump over a defender, which is not something that's typically done by college freshmen. They're a talented pack of players that Penny has assembled. It's going to be interesting. There's an NCAA decision still looming over the program with their decision to play James Wiseman in those 3 games 2 years ago, and so there's somewhat of a cloud, but there's just so much excitement because Penny literally has a roster that's too thick for him to manage. He announced yesterday that 2 players, one of them a 4-star recruit himself, Sam Onu, is going to have to redshirt. He's got to figure out how to divvy up 200 player minutes to a roster that you probably could count 13 right now. Division I players who could be starting somewhere, but they're not going to be starting here in Memphis, particularly with Bates and Duran in the mix. But all kinds of excitement. They're back on the floor again Saturday, so if folks here could see football in the afternoon and head to FedEx Forum to see the Tigers in North Carolina Central Saturday evening, and then St. Louis University in town next Tuesday. It's exciting, man. So exciting. Yeah,
so tell me, what is taking so long on this James Wiseman business from, you said 2 years ago. That seems to be an unbelievably long amount of time to leave Memphis twisting in the wind.
Yes. Yeah, we used the word cynical earlier with football. Don't get me started when it comes to the adjudication of NCAA penalties. We had an entire season played under pandemic conditions that would have seemed, enough to finally put a lid on this case, so to speak. I'm not going to guess. I don't want to guess at what will happen if anything does happen. If there's going to be a suspension of Hardaway or a postseason ban, something in between, just a financial fine of some kind. But the general feeling here is just fingers crossed. They lost a significant piece to what would have been a special team 2 years ago. When is it enough? When has the team paid enough? The club they have right now together, it's remarkable. Bates is 17. Duran doesn't turn 18 until next week. They're prodigious talents. I can't see him playing here more than a year, but as long as the NCAA doesn't come down too hard, the country's going to have a special team to watch. I'm convinced come March.
Well, they certainly are highly thought of. I know the preseason poll for winning the conference title, Houston got 8 first-place votes. Memphis got the other 3. Now, Houston certainly comes in with the track record as being the gold standard of the conference. But, when you look back at last season, Memphis played them tooth and nail. Those were some really entertaining basketball games. It's like I can watch these guys play every week. the way they went out at the end of the season. So so it's not a foregone conclusion that Houston will wear the crown this year.
No, I thought the closest case the Tigers made for the NCAA tournament last year were those 2 losses to Houston. But sadly, you don't earn any points with losses. They either game could have gone the Tigers' way, it just didn't. And the Cougars made it all the way to the Final Four, which tells you, I think, a little bit about the talent level of a Tiger team that went on to win the NIT championship. But now, you take that Tiger roster, and it's the players who were part of the rotation on the night they won the NIT. There may be, I'm doing some math in my head here. There are 4 of the 8 players were active and in the rotation last night. I mean, it's been transformed by the arrival of Mr. Bates and Mr. Duran and some other freshmen. Josh Minot is a talented young man who college basketball fans are going to learn about, but you may only see him for about 15 to 20 minutes a game early on because of the numbers game that Penny is having to manage. The Cougars, coming off a Final Four season, they should be the favorite, if you ask me, in the AAC. But the Tigers are going to make some waves. It's a shame they don't play. I'm looking at the schedule. They don't play till February 12th in Texas, and then the season finale here for the Tigers, March 6th. But the Memphis-Houston games are going to be they're going to be headliners this winter. Yeah,
I definitely think so. And again, you look at this basketball conference as well. I think there's going to be several. There are not going to be any nights off for anybody. I don't think. As many good teams.
League,
yeah. They're talking this potentially could be a 4-bid league this year. That would be
right. Well, we've seen what Cincinnati does year after year, and Houston, SMU's better. We got Wichita State. It's dare I go Power 6, and I don't want to fall on that flag. But you're seeing good basketball. I watch enough of it, and I have for as long as the AAC was since it was formed, and you see good basketball, and we got more of that coming. It's an exciting time of year.
Yeah, I think
there's good. The Tigers, I would say, have a terrific non-conference schedule. They've got 4 SEC teams: Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Tennessee on the docket, and that's all before Christmas. So Penny's not messing around. He wants to make, he wants all the smoke, as he said a couple of years ago, and it's going to be there this year.
Yeah, and just like we mentioned, the American, certainly, even though like in football, it's a down year record wise, but you look at the struggles, and I don't like to use the word struggle, but Cincinnati is winning games against teams that are giving them dogfights every week. When you look at that, even though it's a down year record wise, they still don't get credit for the conference being strong in football. I think in basketball they've gotten more respect. I don't think they've gotten enough respect, but I think they're turning that corner. I mean, UCF looks to be an improved team this year. There's just a lot to look forward to as we go through the winter months as far as basketball is concerned. And it was also interesting here in these parts, when the Orlando Magic had a head coaching opening, Penny Hardaway's name was floated, and he immediately put that to rest right away.
Yeah, not immediately enough, let me tell you, Jeff, for a lot of Memphis Tiger fans. Yeah, there were some sweaty palms here for a few days last summer. But, the AAC is it's a terrific basketball league. And I'm glad you mentioned the battles that Cincinnati's had, in football. They beat Navy by a touchdown, just got by Tulsa last week, 8 points. They're having to earn their 9-0 record, and it's a good athletic league, period. But more to come. More to come.
Yeah, it'll be. It's very interesting to look at the future of what will happen with the AAC. Now you've got the 6 incoming members that'll be moving over from Conference USA. And then talk about a conference that just got decimated, getting poached by the AAC and the Sun Belt. It's just remarkable to see what's going on, but we could still see further movement. Memphis could be in play for a Big 12 opportunity down the road too. So it's mind-boggling to what we have to keep our eye on as far as realignment goes.
Yeah. All this sunshine we're still in the AAC, it is going to be transformed. When Cincinnati and UCF and some other folks leave, it's musical chairs, Jeff, and there are going to be more spots open in the so-called Power Five. I'm convinced, in our lifetime, the Power Five will change. I think, whether it's a super league that merges, one of those Power Five leagues we see now, I don't know, but it's just, there's always going to be a money grab. TV is always going to be in the mix. Regional travel is not really a factor anymore. It hasn't been for generations really. So we just got to wait and see. What I try and do each year is just hit a reset button, look at the league as it currently exists. Is UConn a member of the AAC or are they not? Do I need to pay attention to the Huskies or do I not? And from there, you map out what's ahead for your favorite football team or your favorite basketball team, and to this point, every season has been fun. So I count on it being fun in the years ahead. Outstanding
stuff. Well, Frank, as always, we appreciate you being on, and please plug your coverage of the Memphis Tigers and other endeavors, which I know you have many.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Jeff. MemphisFlyer.com. That's where you can find my coverage of the Tigers, both the basketball and football teams. I'm still selling books. My novel Trey's Company. I'd love for your listeners to pick who they'd like to put a novel in the Christmas stocking for. You can go to my website, frankmurtaugh.com, and get a book there. You can sign up for my newsletter there also. I send out a monthly newsletter on the reading that I'm doing that influences me, and I'd like to share with your listeners. So that's the best way to find me, frankmurtaugh.com or memphisflyer.com. All right, sounds good. Frank, as always, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it, Jeff. Great chatting with you. East Carolina and Memphis is a noon kick on ESPN+. The Pirates lead the all-time series 15-8. Their last meeting was in 2018, in which Memphis won a 59-41 shootout. The Offensive Player of the Week, Clayton Tune of Houston, as we mentioned, he had 385 yards and 3 touchdowns in their win against South Florida. The Defensive Player of the Week is Rodney Owens of Memphis, as he helped hold the Mustangs to a season-low 323 yards in their upset victory. He had 6 tackles, a sack for a loss of 12 yards, and the big clinching defensive play with an interception on SMU's final drive. The Special Teams Player of the Week, as we mentioned, Brian Battie of South Florida had 2 touchdowns on kickoff returns, both 100 yards, as they came up just a bit short in their upset bid against Houston. He also threw in a 29-yard rushing touchdown for good measure. And he joined former USF wide receiver Terrence Horn as the only AAC players to register 2 touchdowns on kickoff returns in a game. And he is the NCAA leader with 3 touchdowns on kickoff returns in 2021. All right, we'll talk about the Women's Soccer Championship and more next when the AAC Report continues only on the Nightline Sports Network.
If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Nightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Memphis claimed its second AAC Women's Soccer Championship as they won a penalty shootout with South Florida 3-0 on Sunday at Corbett Soccer Stadium in Tampa. The two teams were held scoreless after 110 minutes behind outstanding goalkeeping by Memphis's Elizabeth Moberg. She had 7 saves, and South Florida's Sydney Martinez, who had 6 saves. Moberg, the tournament's most outstanding defensive player, made 2 saves in the penalty shootout, while Tanya Boychuk and Ciara Miller converted to give the Tigers a 2-0 lead. And after South Florida's third attempt went awry, Jocelyn Alonso scored to clinch the title for the Tigers. The most outstanding offensive player of the tournament was Ciara Miller of Memphis. And again, Moberg, we mentioned, was the defensive player. The all-tournament team was Caroline Duncan, Ciara Miller, Elizabeth Moberg, Kimberly Smith, Haley Spray of Memphis from South Florida, Vivian Bissett, Sydney Martinez, Rosalia Munoz Gonzalez, and Sydney Salo, Emma Clark of Houston, and Wayne Balata of SMU. The bracket now set for the 4-team men's soccer championship that'll take place. Actually, as we're recording, the first action is getting underway as that is taking place at the Hurricane Soccer and Track Stadium in Tulsa. Tulsa is the 5th different American team to host the men's soccer championship and earn the tournament's top seed following a historic regular season. The first tournament semifinal is between number 2 UCF and number 3 Memphis. Results not available for this podcast, so make sure you check your favorite internet source. The match will be followed by number 1 Tulsa against number 4 SMU. And then the championship match will be on the 13th, 8 p.m. All 3 matches, of course, are on ESPN+. The offensive players of the week, there are 2. Maxi Galizzi of Memphis had a fantastic performance in the regular season finale at SMU. All 4 of his shot attempts on the night were on goal, and he bagged a brace in just under a 4-minute span in the first half. Henrique Galina of South Florida, he was big in the offensive category for the Bulls. Had his second 2-goal performance of the year against Temple. Defensive Player of the Week, Henry Sock of Tulsa, had a big role in their season finale in the 2-1 victory over UCF. And the goalkeeper of the week is Parker Lackland of Memphis. Again, he helped hold the Mustangs in check in that 4-0 victory. Turning now to volleyball. UCF and Houston furthered themselves from the remainder of the pack in the American with a pair of sweeps this past week. The Knights extended their current winning streak to 9 straight games with road wins at Cincinnati and East Carolina. Houston took down Wichita State and Tulsa away from home. They now have a 4-match win streak. UCF 13-1 in conference after 14 starts. Houston at 11-3. The Offensive Player of the Week, Anne-Marie Watson of UCF. She ranked second in the American among eligible players with a .522 hitting percentage and third with 1.25 blocks per set, turning in the fifth most points per frame for the week at 4.38. The Defensive Player of the Week, Kate Georgiadis. Thank you very much. Led the conference with 6.62 digs per set, 53 total on the road, and opened the weekend with 39 digs and 9 assists in their 5-set victory at Wichita State. And we turn to hoops, the 9th season of AAC men's basketball. Tipping off this week, 8 schools began play on Tuesday. Defending tournament champion Houston has been selected to win the 2022 conference title, earning 8 first-place votes, while Memphis was picked second with the 3 remaining first-place votes. The Tigers have been picked number 12 in the preseason AP poll, number 16 in the Ferris Mowers USA Today coaches poll. Houston at number 15 in the AP and number 14 in the coaches poll. And that'll put a wrap on this week's show. As always, give me a follow on Twitter at JeffAllen_88 and also the Nightline Sports Network at UCF_Nightline. This has been the AAC Report only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.